unconventional thoughts, probes for answers, remembers the past, imagines the future, and gets to the heart of the matter. Let's Talk About It is brought to you by Columbia Ford Kia, Route 6 in Columbia, Connecticut, and Gates GMC Nissan, Route 66, the Boston Post Road, North Windham, USA. Opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of WILI staff, management, or sponsors. Now, let's join our hosts with their guests, and let's talk about it.
Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. This is Susan Johnson, and my co-host Dennis O'Brien is out doing great things in the community today. And so we have a fabulous guest, though, our wonderful local historian, Bev York. Welcome to the show, Bev.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here.
I'm thrilled. This is a perfect timing to have you on. Let's talk about it because we are here on the precipice of the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And you are a wonderful historian and have all this wonderful information about Connecticut and the Declaration of Independence. So I am absolutely thrilled to have you here on the show.
Well, thank you.
But before we begin, I just want to say how sad we are that our good friend Bruce John is no longer with us. He was a wonderful person to the whole region, to the state, somebody who really gave his all to everybody. He took good care of the low-income population. He took good care of all of us. He was there raising money on his birthday for our soup kitchen, raising money for the people who needed a house to be in, raising money all over the place, and just bringing great songs and those kinds of things to everybody. Wonderful to listen to him. It was great to be there when he was center of the performance, and he is going to be missed.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So with that said, we are have just a moment of silence for Bruce John. Okay, now, here we are. We're going to be celebrating tomorrow, the July 4th. The Boombox Parade is moving on. We have events before and after the parade. And, of course, you're doing a presentation. And I'd like you to just go over some of the things that you're aware of for tomorrow, and then tell us a little bit about your vision with respect to how should the people think of the 4th of July, the Declaration of Independence.
Well, tomorrow on July 4th, following the Boombox Parade, there's going to be a Wyndham Celebrates America 250 in Jolson Square. There will be amazing things happening on Shaboo Stage. The Wyndham Concert Band is going to be playing the Sousa Marches and the Star Spangled Banner and wonderful patriotic music. And then alternating will be a Latin jazz pianist, Zakai Curtis, and his band. And they are coming to change it up. They're also going to be playing... they're also going to be playing some music with the concert band. One of the featured things that will be on the stage is that there's this giant screen, a giant video screen, and there are some youth from Project Emo who have filmed reading excerpts of the preamble of the Declaration of Independence. I understand they had to study the big words, how to say them and what they mean, and isn't that wonderful? And so that will be one of the things that will be on the stage on this giant screen. In addition to the stage entertainment, and I should say, probably we should say this more than once, that people should wear hats. Bring your chair. If you're coming from the parade, you'll have your lawn chair. Bring sunscreen and bring water. It will be hot. And some people will have an umbrella. You could bring an umbrella, and have some shade. But there will be wonderful things on the stage. In addition to that, there will be a along the fence a walk through history. So there's going to be a Army camp from the Continental Army, and we have a couple of some soldiers, and we have a blacksmith, and we have the cooper making barrels, and so there's that to experience. Talk to some soldiers, and then there's also a little village, a Wyndham village, with a house with cooking and spinning, and we have a schoolhouse for the kids to go to the old-fashioned school. There are games. There's a vendor called a sutler who will be selling little things, little souvenirs and things that people might be interested in. And in addition to that, there are a number of people that you can meet. So we have, some of these are pros, and some of these are putting this together for tomorrow. And we have George and Martha Washington. We have Samuel Huntington. And Samuel Huntington is very important because he was born in Wyndham, and in later life he moved to Norwich, but he is a signer of the Declaration, and he's a Wyndham son. So we have our own signer.
I just have to say something about that because it's such a great thing to remember that he was born in Wyndham, and that Wyndham was just such a center of all kinds of progress back during that period of time, more than 250 years ago. And I just am very, very proud that we are part of that whole Declaration of Independence.
Right.
We should be very, very proud of that, and we should have a place to recognize us.
Absolutely. So something else. Well, you're an attorney. He wanted to be an attorney, and his older brother got to go to Yale, but then there was no money for him. His older brother became a minister in Coventry, and was actually Nathan Hale's minister at church. But Samuel Huntington was self-taught. He taught himself. He walked to Wyndham. He studied with various attorneys. Wyndham was the county seat, so the court and the judges were there, and several lawyers. And so Samuel Huntington was ambitious, and he did it on his own. So that's just amazing.
And that's kind of the way, just as a lawyer, and envious of the lawyers before the 60s, many could be apprentices and then take the bar exam and then move on from there.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. A little before my time, yeah.
Yeah. Another signer that we have is Roger Sherman, and he is very important because he's known for one of the only people that signed all of the documents. He helped to write the Declaration and the Constitution. We don't have a William Williams, sadly, but his wife will be there. Mary Williams will be leading the children's games, and so you can meet one of the Williams family. We have Thomas Jefferson, Anne Wood Elderkin. Anne Wood Elderkin is the wife of Colonel Elderkin, who was very instrumental in the Revolution because he built the first gunpowder factory in the colony of Connecticut, which was right here by the Flower Bridge and the thread mill. So the Britain stopped selling gunpowder to the colonies in 1774, and one of the first orders of business in the General Assembly for Connecticut was, we've got to have gunpowder. So the first one that was established in Connecticut was here in Wyndham. We have 3 spies, and they're all women.
All right.
There were 3 very famous spies, and just somehow people got intrigued by that, and so we have all of them, and you can meet them tomorrow. We have a Reverend White, the first minister in Wyndham. Israel Putnam, George Washington's right-hand man, will be there. And let's see, Asher Wright is Nathan Hale's best friend. We have John Trumbull the painter, who paints the very famous painting the Declaration of Independence, sometimes called the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It's on a $2 bill, and it's one of the most popular and important paintings in our American history. So we have somebody painting that, and also John Trumbull was a portrait artist. He had painted all the portraits of everybody in that painting except two, I think. And also he painted several paintings of his father, the governor, Jonathan Trumbull. And so Jonathan Trumbull will be here also. So we have quite a few people for you to meet, talk to, take pictures with. And these are founding fathers many of them are local, and many of them are important for our whole nation. So that's kind of what's happening. There will also be blacksmith and a cooper and different artists and artisans as part of this village.
I love that, and I think that this is a wonderful opportunity to bring your students to this event. One of the things that I did when I was asked to come to some of our schools here in town is because I knew it was our 250th anniversary, I put together materials for fourth grade and younger students so that they would have some materials and maybe think about, hey, we talked about this in school. This is why we have this boombox parade, and it's nationally recognized, and it's something that the students can really latch onto in terms of their history, in terms of their civics education. All those kinds of things kind of meld together. I mean, it's been fascinating for me just to go back through a lot of the history that I learned back in the day, and the history I learned in law school about the case law and how the court was formed and all that. All those things, the constitutional history, I took that, plus constitutional law. So those are the kinds of things that, really kind of bring us back to where we are and what kind of a government do we have and how is the government working and how do we want to make sure that we communicate with people who are elected in this democratic republic.
Mm-hmm, right. So that was really great for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things so we are celebrating the actual day that the document was voted on. The Declaration of Independence was voted on, the document, on July 4th, 1776. They voted for independence on July 2nd. And then on the 3rd, I guess they made corrections, typos, delete. And then on the 4th, they voted on the document.
Of course, those things always cause a little kerfuffle, I'd say, whenever you're trying to go through somebody's work and they've spent all this time and then you want to do some corrections.
Yes,
but,
absolutely.
But it shows the kind of spirit that people had while this was being put together over the several months, and the concepts that were put together, and also the history of Thomas Jefferson and the people who were working on the corrections, looked back through other Greek democracies, for example, read those philosophers and took information from those philosophers to create this Declaration of Independence.
And then from this document, 100 other countries have used it as a model as they went for their independence and became democracies or republics. So, I mean, it's just such an important document in the whole history of the whole world. So
it really is. We were true leaders. We were able to. I think about how this happened often. Because I think about the fact that we were able to come here with more land available,
right,
and not bringing the tensions that were over in Europe and other parts of the world where more developed. Everything is more developed, and everybody had established a certain way of being. Here we created flexibility. That flexibility is something that has helped us grow, and it helps us learn from one another about different ideas about how we think we want to create a lifestyle. So it's all that flexibility creates growth and understanding, I believe, in terms of how we have a society.
Yes, that's great.
Thank you.
the document is divided into 3 sections, and I was thinking it's just like when they teach you how to write a paper. There are 3 parts. There's the introduction, when you say what you're going to say, and then there's the middle part, which is the ideas and the in this case the grievances against England, and then the ending and the summary.
I love the way you put that. That's so perfect.
And I hope that people will be able to read it. First of all, I have some copies. I have been doing programs for the whole year so far and have had these wonderful, beautiful colored copies provided by Liberty Bank. And the rest of them will go tomorrow. It's sort of a first come, first serve. But these are, generally online. You can read this, and so I think it's really important. You can read it aloud in 20 minutes because we will be doing that on July 8th, I should say. There's a couple of national things. Let me say that right now. One is on July 4th at 2 o'clock, they're going to ring bells all across the country. And some are going to do it at 2:50 because of the 250th. And some are going to do it at 2 o'clock. So anyway, we decided to do it at 2 o'clock was the first thing we saw. So church bells and school bells and town hall bells all across the land will ring tomorrow for our independence. And then on July 8th, so next week, which is the July 8th is the day that in 1776 it was read from every town hall steps in major cities and towns across the land. By that time, they had these post riders who took their copy on a horse. They rode to all the different parts of the colony, and then they read it. And we're going to do that also next week and read it. But you can read it to yourself, and it only takes a couple of minutes. The preamble, the very first sentence is pretty important. It says, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitled them. It goes on to say the very famous line that all men are created equal, all people are created equal. I
appreciate that.
Yes, and in the middle there are the grievances against the king, and this is a very, I love this part. It talks about he has this, he's done this, he has refused to do this, he. It never mentions who he is, but we all know.
We certainly do.
Who that is. And there's a few that are really, many of them are very interesting, and many of them we can learn from, make connections.
Could you pick a few of those?
Sure.
I would love to hear a few, because when I looked at that, I go, this is really important for us to kind of dwell upon some of the things that the king was doing. And that one of the reasons we say, we want to have a democracy is because we want to have the people decide in a republic. So we want to have representatives help us, but we want to pick the representatives based on their philosophies and then have them help us out. And the whole idea of no taxation without representation, all these kinds of things, making sure that when a law is passed, that the people are connected to the types of laws that are passed and how they impact the public.
Right, exactly. So, and the one that you just mentioned is one that most people know about, the taxes.
Yes.
And it says, for imposing taxes on us without our consent.
Exactly.
There's another one that says he has controlled the judges.
Yes.
And in our Constitution, we have separated the legislative and the judicial and the executive powers. But in this case, they were together. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners. He has erected a multitude of new officers and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies. He has quartered his soldiers in our homes. So it's really, when you read this, you can really understand some of the reasons why the people wanted to be independent of this oppressive king. And there were arguments among the colonies because some of the colonies didn't understand this, but Boston, as many of us know, some of the history of Boston, they were one of the cities that really was suffering from a lot of the oversight of the king, and so they were one of the colonies that was really pushing for independence.
Oh, that's where they had their so-called Tea Party.
Right.
The Boston Tea Party. You want to say a few words about the Boston Tea Party?
I love the idea of the Tea Party. So first of all, it happened in 1973, and 2 years ago we reenacted that here. So on the day, which I believe is December 16th, we went down by the Willimantic River, and we had boxes of tea, or boxes that said tea, with little strings attached, and we threw them into the river. But first we talked about what were the taxing and the tariffs and the situations that were causing us to do that. And so the reenactment, and there's a wonderful Boston Tea Party ship in Boston. If anybody can get to Boston, put that on your list of places to visit, especially if you have family members. The Boston Tea Party ship is fabulous. It is, you're actually on a ship, so it's limited in numbers, and you should make a reservation. But they do a wonderful job with their first-person interpretation. People are acting out the people who were there in the church and the reasons why they were headed to the ship to dump the tea. And so, but before that was the Boston Massacre, which was an idea of nobody really knows who yelled fire and who shot first, but it shows the tension of having armed guards in your streets in a time of peace, and how a snowball fight could get out of hand. So that's sort of what happened with that. And I just want to say something else about the Tea Party, and that is after the Boston Tea Party, it took 3 months for the king to find out about it, because the word has to go by ship.
Right.
So,
no internet.
So 2.5 months later, 2 to 3 months it takes, it goes by ship across the ocean, and he was outraged. And he said, well, we're gonna tax those people even more. And so then came the Townshend Act, and every piece of paper and every piece of glass and lead and paint and all these taxes. And but after the Boston Tea Party, he also blockaded Boston Harbor so that ships couldn't bring food for the people, and also it would ruin all their shipping businesses because many of the people were merchants. So the incidents of Boston are really key to their convincing the other people in the other colonies why we really needed independence.
Thank you so much for that. We have Bev York here talking about the Declaration of Independence. She's a wonderful historian here. She does great work all throughout the town, and I'm really thrilled she's here on this particular day, because this is when we should be thinking about all these details. This is Susan Johnson, and we will be right back after these messages from Gates, and we appreciate their sponsorship. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Susan Johnson. I'm here with a very special guest today. our historian, Bev York, but also Chris Beaudry, who is working so hard on making sure our celebration for the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence is going to be really celebrated in so many different ways. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Hi, Susan. Thanks for having me. Yeah. On the fly here. I just kind of ambushed y'all in the studio. You didn't even know I was coming.
You crashed the show.
Yeah. I'm a show crasher at WIL. Matt knows that because sometimes I'll walk into shows I don't even know who the hosts are half the time. Anyway.
Well, that's what we love about you, though, because you're out there, you're doing stuff, and you're promoting the arts. Finally, we really have a real voice in our arts and entertainment district.
And now we're using the what we've built with WRI. I mean, WRI's already had quite a bit built, but with the River Room and the America 250, and we're shining not only the arts light, but the humanities as well. And the humanities, CT Humanities, is actually going to be tenting at the America 250 event, and we're super thrilled to have them. I mean, Bev has gone above and beyond in organizing the Army encampment, the schoolhouse, the 20 historical reenactors. I mean, it's going to be living history. It's not going to be something you read in a book or experience secondhand. This is firsthand. You get to mingle with Martha and George Washington and Sally Hemings and Betsy Ross, and I mean, it's crazy what we're having on tomorrow.
I think that's wonderful. Bev was just describing some of the people that will be there, and this is just exactly how we should be teaching history to our students, because this really gives them that idea about how this works and who these people are and how these people were doing regular jobs just like everybody else. And they were totally focused on how their government was going to work. And
how what a child experiences in their life today has literally been formed by these people of history that have toiled and thought about and worked through some of the toughest issues of humanity. And we're still, obviously, we have long hills in front of us still, but they can actually have the tangible nature of the history rather than, again, receiving it secondhand and not having that what they call authentic learning experience in schools where it actually applies to them. So this is what we're trying to accomplish tomorrow.
And it really fits in with the Arts and Entertainment District because this is a type of theater.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah,
and it's what you can learn from theater when you have these performances by people. They take on that personality. They take on that work that can be conveyed in such a really great way.
To your point, are these method actors, Bev? Are they like gonna break character ever? No, probably not. I mean, they're serious actors here, right? You know about method acting,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Joaquin Phoenix just embodies a character before he performs in a movie, and people like in his day-to-day personal life are like, "What's going on with this guy?" But he's like in character. I feel like the actors tomorrow are they're spot on in character all the time.
Yes. Well, I had to have a conversation with George Washington because some of the kids will say, you're the first president. And in 1776, he was a long way from being the first president. So he has to figure out how he's going to answer that. But anyway, yes. So I think that they will be in character, and that's a lot of the fun of it. So, absolutely. And I totally believe in the theater aspect. Yeah, always.
Right. Yes.
I have always believed in that, and hands-on, and how you learn more from doing than just by hearing.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about that. Doing is number one in terms of how I like to think about things. And theater is one way of doing, and taking on those personalities is a great thing because you have to put yourself back in that time. And how people were behaving back in that time. And those interactions are different than they are today. Very different.
Check this out. I know our radio listeners won't be able to see this, but if they attend tomorrow's event, they certainly will. We have the historical actor roll call, which will be shown on the 30-foot LED video wall that if you're driving by the Shabu stage tonight, Friday night, July 3rd, or tomorrow morning, you're going to see that thing in action. And this is a perfect opportunity for us to not only showcase the actors and actresses. Oh, we do have a camera here for the YouTube recording. I can hold it up. You won't hear me, though, but this is obviously on my 6-inch iPhone, but tomorrow on a 30-foot screen, it's going to be that living history. Yeah.
We love that, and we love that all the ways we can convey where we are today and how we got here is really such an important thing. And it gives you that sense of community as well. We all are here because of what happened back then. And how we interpret it, everybody's going to think of it in a different way. But that is all the beauty of America as well, because we can have our own thoughts.
Yes,
that's right.
Freedom of speech, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Bev, are you proceeding with the declaration or some other aspects?
Well, I would love to talk about Connecticut signers.
yes, let's
So,
do that.
Ladies, I have to actually take off
Well,
for
well,
more
it's
prep
great
work,
to-
but thank you for having me.
Of course, Chris.
And
We
Bev,
always like
tell
to
them
have
what you know.
Radio Crusher Chris, thank you.
Bye, Chris. So he is off. We are decorating a grandstand out here in front of WILI radio because tomorrow during the parade, one thing that's different about the parade, otherwise it's the same, is that there will be a contest for floats and walkers, and people will be judged on their historical creativity and whether it's Happy Birthday America or Wyndham history or American history or youth or homemade creativity. All of these categories will be judged. And so there's going to be a grandstand at the parade. So the signers, I already mentioned that Samuel Huntington was from Wyndham, and he grew up on a farm in what is now Scotland, and didn't want to be a farmer, so he educated himself, became an attorney, and was on the Second Continental Congress. Another signer that we mentioned was William Williams from Lebanon, and he had gone to Harvard. His father was the minister at the Congregational Church, and one of the few that was outwardly preaching independence from the pulpit at that time. And William Williams prepared for the ministry, but ended up being a merchant and running a store and made quite a good living. He was also active in his town affairs. He was a town clerk for over 45 years. But what he did that was interesting is during the war, the French are going to come and help us. And one of the reasons why we win, which would be another show in a couple of years, the reasons why we win or how we won, because it's really a miracle that we were able to beat Britain, who had an army 5 times our size and a navy 5 times our size, and we had no army and no navy in the beginning. But anyhow, when the French came to help us, they camped. Some of the cavalry camped on Lebanon Green for one of the winters. Armies don't move well in the winter in those days. Horses can't go through the snow; they break their legs if it's too deep. So anyhow, the Williams he moved out of his house with his wife and let the French officers stay there. He also gave a huge amount of his fortune to feed the troops, which he was never reimbursed. Another one is Roger Sherman.
Before we go there, let's just speak another moment about the French and why the French joined in with the American revolutionaries. Because, of course, as was with the Civil War, the same with the American Revolution. We had many people, not many, but a lot of people who wanted to stay with England, and we had others that did not. Certainly the people that were fighting the taxation and all the things that the king was doing, they wanted to make sure that we had that independence. But there were other groups that wanted to stay with England. So the French had a motivation. You want to just quickly review the quick motivation on with the French, why the French helped out with this war.
The French were our allies, and actually, so they have been since the American Revolution.
Yep.
And they were they took some convincing, and Benjamin Franklin, who is one of the people who I impersonate, he had gone to England, and I'm sorry, England also, but he went to France,
Right.
and he spent a few years there convincing them that that they should help us because they didn't like England either, and that they would help us with money and with soldiers, professional soldiers, and with ships. And so it did take a lot of convincing, and he was successful. So
Well, let me just say a quick thing about Ben Franklin, because his son didn't agree with him.
No, his son was the governor of New Jersey, and he was a loyalist. So according to John Adams, the way the population played out was about a third of the people were patriots who wanted independence. About a third of the people were loyalists. We were British subjects, and they maybe were born in Britain, and their relatives all lived there, and they did not want to separate from the king, and thought that the war would be a huge loss. And then there was another third of the people who really didn't have time to care, or didn't have care at all, lived out in remote places, were so busy trying to feed their families that they didn't participate and didn't pay attention. So, I mean, we see sometimes those kind of numbers today. You know, you have different parties, and then you have a group that is unconcerned or apathetic or whatever, that then they don't get involved in politics. So,
Right. Thank you for that. That was, I like that, spot on.
So, and then, so Roger Sherman from New Haven, he was a shoe cobbler. He also became a self-educated attorney, and he is famous for signing all the documents. And he was on the Committee of Five to write the Declaration. And then Oliver Wolcott, and a lot of people don't know anything about Oliver because he was born in Windsor and lived in Fairfield. But my favorite story about him is this. I mentioned a couple minutes ago about how by July 8th, the Declaration had been read in most every town and city across the land. Well, when they read it in New York City, the people got real excited, and they almost formed a mob. And they went over to the park. It's called Bowling Green Park. I guess it's still there. I'm kind of interested to put that on my list.
Yeah.
And there was a giant equestrian, which means a man on a horse, equestrian statue of King George. And it was gold painted over lead. And they threw their ropes up, and they some people were pulling, and other people put posts on the back, and they were pushing with those big posts, and they knocked the statue over, and it smashed on the ground. And Oliver Wolcott was there, so he hired an ox cart, and he picked up all those pieces of the statue of King George, and he put them in the cart, and he brought them back to Connecticut. And he and his family, I guess his daughters, they set up an assembly line, and they melted down the lead, and they made it into 42,000 bullets so that they could shoot the British.
Oh, boy.
With
wow.
pieces of a statue of the king. So,
wow.
That is a great story.
That is an amazing story. Wonderful story. Thank you so much for that. Wow. Impressive. Talk about creativity.
Yeah. Yep. So those are our Connecticut signers, and there were 56 signers of the Declaration. All of them were men, of course, because women were not involved in politics at that time, and couldn't vote, of course, until only just over 100 years ago.
But they also were advising many of the signers. The wives, of the signers were always advising them, and some of the wives said, "Hey, why don't you just change that? The men and to people, or take into consideration women more."
Absolutely, I'm glad you said that, because that's where I was going.
Okay, good.
That behind every good man, that is the woman at home who's some of them, I'm sure, were quite instrumental in all of the things that took place during the Revolution. One that's documented that we know is Abigail Adams. She and John had letters, and they've been published, and how intelligent she was, and how what a good partner for her to give advice. She didn't call it advice, but certainly helping him to make the right decisions. And one of the famous phrases is, "Remember the ladies now. Don't forget the ladies."
I love that.
Of the signers, there were 24 of them. About half were lawyers and judges, and 9 were farmers, 11 were merchants, and 12 were doctors, ministers, and politicians.
I just have to say it's good to show a mix, because you need a mix of people in a democracy. You need to have the different perspectives from everybody, and having that kind of a group together gives you that mix, and that I like that. 'Cause you got-
Absolutely.
you got the science, you got the law, all the systems for law, and of course people who work farms. And I have to say, farmers are geniuses because they understand how everything works. They know how to grow food. They know how to make it work. And I don't think people fully understand the amazing intellect of farmers.
Absolutely, and agriculture
Yes.
was and is so important part of our. But a lot of people don't know that. Where does food come from? Stop and Shop. They
No,
don't.
yeah,
They
well,
don't
I come from
think,
farmers, so you can,
where does it come from? So important. And these 56 men, so courageous, because actually they were in a way committing treason to sign against the country.
yep.
And many of them, it did not play out well for them personally or for their families. The men in Connecticut fared pretty well. But of others, there were 5 that were tortured and died. 9 died fighting as soldiers. 12 of them had their homes burned down and ransacked. 2 of them lost sons in the war. 16 were soldiers in the war. And another thing that I'd like to mention is that they weren't all Englishmen. There were 9 that were Irish, and there was a Scot, and so they were quite a mixed group in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just how the beginning of a democracy would occur, I think, because, again, we have all different views, and we make way for the different views, and try and give everybody a big tent to function in their daily lives, create the economy, do the kind of work that has to be done to create a society that functions for all the people in the society.
Right. And that, beautifully said, is
Thank you.
about this document is, like the Constitution, how important it is moving forward.
Yes.
I mean, everything that is in this declaration of how the people want to be free and how they want to rule themselves or participate in their government as a republic, and that's what we want going forward.
It is exactly what we want, and it's just a way that the beginnings of the Constitution, as you just said, Bev, were put together. And of course, after the wars and all of the turmoil, the beginning of writing the Constitution occurred. Mm-hmm. And so that is certainly a show that we must have. But just give us a little bit of a perspective after the ending of the war and the beginning of creating the Constitution.
Well, the first document that they came up with, the Congress,
Mm-hmm.
now it's no longer a Continental Congress, now it's the Congress, was the Articles of Confederation, and there were some people there that had experience studying government for sure, but it was difficult. And I should say that the president of the Congress at that time was Samuel Huntington from Windham and Norwich. So sometimes he's considered the first president of the country because he was the president of the Congress at that time. And they could see that the Articles of Confederation were inadequate, and so they began talking about the Constitution. And the writing of the Constitution, which is going to be in 1787, I believe.
Yep.
And so the war lasted 8 years. And while they were writing the Constitution, there were several different opinions. And one of the problems was how to make everybody happy. Well, you can't always make everybody happy, but they recognized the differences between. We just spoke about agriculture as one of the major forces in our country, but also merchants and trading. And then there were small states, and then there were huge states. And how do you deal with that? And it was actually Connecticut's own Roger Sherman who came up with the idea of having a Senate where every state would have the same votes, and then the House of Representatives, where every state would be judged, would have votes according to their population. And then some things are passed by one or the other, and some things have to pass through both the House and the Senate. And so the Connecticut Compromise. I mean, so the brilliancy of these people. I think that they were brilliant, and I truly believe that perhaps it might not have happened at any other time without some of these personalities. And I don't know a lot. I study all eras of the history, but this year I've been really into Revolutionary War history and the 1770s. And it's fascinating. And I believe that these personalities, well, like we have the same today. There are amazing people, and we need them all. We need their thoughts and their visions and their influence and how we can work together.
Wow. Thank you so much, Bev York, our wonderful historian, helping us out with our big celebration for the Declaration of Independence, where we will be going down Main Street in the Boombox Parade and celebrating afterwards. Thank you so much for reviewing the history of the Declaration of Independence. Bev York, that's been great.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Let's Talk About It airs each week at this time on 14 WILI Radio and is brought to you by Gates GMC Nissan in North Windham and Columbia Ford Kia in Columbia, USA. This show is videotaped for replay on Charter Communications Cable Channel 192. Let's Talk About It is scheduled for initial playback on Fridays at 8 p.m., but may also be seen periodically during daytime hours. Consult local listings.